Welcome back to Young and Wifed Up. This is Marcella.
And I'm Gabby.
And thanks for joining us this week for another episode.
To look at all the resources from today's episode, head to youngandwifedup.com, and you can also join our Facebook group and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Also, if you'd like to support us, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. You can shop with our sponsors, which include Imperfect Foods, Covenant Eyes, and Earth Hero. You can also leave a 5-star review with Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and now Spotify. You can leave reviews, so
it really helps us a lot.
It does, yeah.
And it'll help us get on the charts, and also the way that algorithms work with podcast listening sites. If people see engagement, like listens and downloads, and also
it'll get pushed out to more
exactly.
listeners.
So then more people can hang out with us.
Yeah. So that, and then also be sure to share with your friends and fam.
Which there's a whole lot of new people that have been listening to our podcast, so welcome. Again, we are sisters, Gabby and Marcella, and we really appreciate all of the support and awesome feedback from the last few episodes about homeschooling. And it's just cultivated more conversations about it and spurs us on more to look forward to that in our future. So we have a special thank you to our listeners for hitting 8,000 listens, which is really big for a small podcast like this. We started in my sister's apartment on the living room floor with a tiny little recording device, and now we have a full production. And even though like our following is still small, like the whole point of our podcast is to make new friends and to have a creative outlet. And so we appreciate you guys for sticking around and being a part of our lives. So yeah, speaking of our lives, what has been going on? It's been a month since you and I have recorded, and we've been kind of dormant for a couple weeks. We've had a lot going on. Yeah. So what's been going on with you?
Let's see. Well, Jed and I hit our 5-year anniversary.
Congrats.
Thanks.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
it feels like a last year.
It kind of feels more like it's maybe been like 2 or 3 years, but then I'm like, we have a kid who's over 2, so that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And you guys were literally kids when you got married.
I got married a month after I turned 20, because that was like under my father's conditions to Jed was that just at least wait until she's 20. And so Jed like went just past that mark to hit his standard. But yeah, it was fun. We went to Universal Studios in Hollywood. For those who don't know, we live in California. And I haven't been in like, I don't even know, 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a really long time. So you guys stayed with the boys.
Yes, it was a wild day.
She's like texting you guys.
Okay, first of all, you know what? It's a two-sided coin. On one side, I'm so thankful my sister has a good schedule and rhythm for both of the children, because it is easier on the people that take care of them.
Yes.
But
it's still chaotic.
It's very chaotic. And Seth is newly potty trained, and so that was a part of the chaos. Yeah. And my poor husband is a huge trooper. He took care of, we kind of did zones. So Seth was Ryan's zone, and the younger one, Eli, who's still an infant, was my zone. And I don't know who had the harder job, because Eli is a screamer and Seth has potty accidents. So it was kind of like a crazy day. But honestly, like, Ryan and I were like, we can totally do this. Like, we're sick in the head.
Can you do it by yourself, though?
No, absolutely not. That's why the Lord starts us with one, typically.
Yeah, I was
so
like,
can you
work
imagine
up to it for those who have multiples?
Yeah,
is insanity.
And I'm crazy. I always say, like, I hope the Lord gives us twins or triplets, because because of my fertility issues, I don't know how many times I'll get pregnant.
If we're gonna do it once, might as well knock out as many as we can.
So it's always my prayer to have multiples, but maybe I should retract it, because It was crazy.
Yeah.
But it was so fun. And honestly, I'm just so glad that you guys got to spend time with each other.
It was really good. And we like spent the extra money for the express passes.
Totally worth it.
Which is completely worth it.
Cool.
Because within a couple of hours of the park opening, like a lot of the lines were like more than an hour long.
Yeah.
Wait. And so yeah, but it was funny because like, you know, they have like the studio tour for those who have been. They have like the studio tour. We're going through like the Jaws part, whatever. Like Ryan's calling me multiple times. How do you open the stroller? And I'm like there, like, oh, there's a shark coming at me. And like, wait, hang on 1 second. Oh yeah, and water and all this stuff. Calling me again. How do you close the stroller? Oh my gosh.
You should have given us a tutorial.
I know.
Strollers are crazy. I know.
You should just look
Ryan
at
and I
make and model.
we literally were like, the boys were in a hot car and we were like,
I get it.
Struggling.
It's just like, trying to get them out. Anyway, that was super fun. That was probably like the most, I don't know, like big
eventful
thing that happened since we last recorded. So
yeah. The only other thing that I could think of that was super eventful, because honestly the past couple of weeks have been this has probably been the busiest couple weeks in my life, and it's not over. It's definitely gonna keep being this busy until the end of May. I'm taking a whole month off of work in June, and I'm so excited. I'm literally counting down the days, which I know probably sounds terrible to some people, but I just really need the time off.
Yeah.
And so we had a studio recital. I'm a piano teacher. I have a pretty large studio, and so I had a recital, and it was my first in-person recital since the pandemic started. So it was so amazing and surreal. Like we packed we definitely maxed the capacity.
Yes.
We did it at a coffee shop, and it's a large coffee shop, and we still were overflowing with parents and families.
There were no more chairs for, there were a bunch of people standing up in the back, and
it was so fun. It was just,
cool.
I just felt so blessed by God that, you know, I know that so many people, especially like music is a luxury, and I know that a lot of people have been struggling that are in this kind of business, and I just felt super blessed, you know, that I have been able to grow my studio since the past couple years, and just how sweet and precious all those kids are. So it was just like a really sweet time. So that was the biggest thing that happened this past month. And I have another show coming up for a children's choir I play for. So my arms and legs and back and arm, like everything is
needs
just
a break.
I'm just struggling, physically struggling. I'm in so much pain all the time, and like I don't know. It's a good thing though. You know, I'm very blessed and filled to the brim with good music and little kids, and it's just the best. But I'm very excited for June.
I get it.
I'm really excited to have some break time and just be home and be a homemaker for a month. So
yeah.
And it's honestly kind of like my husband and I's trial run to kind of see if we can survive without my income for a month. And we're kind of testing the waters to see what it would look like for me not to work as much. So I'm a little nervous about that. It's mixed. I'm excited to have the time home to really focus on homemaking, but I'm also really scared to
what money's gonna look like.
Because living in California is expensive, and like we don't live an extravagant lifestyle. It's just that,
and we live in a relatively cheap area in California, and it's still horribly.
It's still really hard.
Which is saying a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, there's always a brighter side, or grass is greener, or whatever somewhere else, but we're happy where we live, and we're just kind of trying to figure it out with the kind of life that we want to live and the kind of family life we want to have. So anyway, that's kind of our big updates for the past month, and I'm really excited about today's episode topic. It's really near and dear to our hearts, and I know that a lot of our listeners are young wives, or they're like in a season of toddlers and little kids, and there's not a lot of
some single women.
There's not a whole lot of singles, but we do have a percentage of women that are single or engaged that listen to our podcast. And if anything, this episode's going to be a time of reflection for maybe everybody that listens that's already married. But even these are just good reminders to myself, and just a testimony of God's provision in our lives, that even though this is kind of gonna be an episode where we kind of look back and talk about what we wish we would have done, obviously everything is in God's fatherly hands, you know, like there's a reason that he led us through this past 10 years of our lives or whatever. And I just think that it's good to reflect and good to kind of think about what would we teach our daughters or our little sisters and our little cousins and stuff like that. And if you have a woman in your life that is maybe fresh out of high school or in college or kind of in a season of singleness or just engaged or, kind of looking forward to family life, this would be a good podcast episode to send to them. Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back with today's topic.
I don't know about you, but I'm always on the hunt for a convenient shopping experience.
However, too much of the stuff we buy today is made without any thought of how it will affect our families and the world tomorrow.
What if there was an all-around better way to shop, with the convenience that we all want and the confidence that everything is made, packaged, and shipped sustainably?
Earth Hero is exactly that. Earth Hero is a one-stop shop for all your sustainable and eco-friendly products.
They have so many products ranging from beauty supplies, cleaning products, homeware, clothing, baby essentials, and so much more.
Join us today on our sustainable journey by using promo code YoungandWifedUp for 10% off your entire purchase.
Make sure to click the Earth Hero link on our website at YoungandWifedUp.com to start shopping today. Okay, guys, I'm going to hand off the microphone, figuratively, to my sister. We have our own microphones, but Marcella's going to talk first. Yeah, yikes. You're going to be hearing a lot of repetition in this because I'm realizing the points that I just made
are the same as mine.
Almost parallel to what the ones that you're going to make as well. So
that's good. I'm excited.
We'll be able to bounce off of each other just fine with this whole thing. Okay, first thing that I would tell myself, my single self, way back when, is to prioritize finding a really good church and don't be afraid to set the standards high.
Amen, sister.
And that's not to say that the churches that I was going to when I was single or even when I was dating Jed, that they were bad. Like, we weren't going to anywhere that was like preaching heresy or like anything like that.
Yeah, they weren't extremely liberal or
no,
progressive.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, but there's definitely, once you find a really, really good church and it really stands out from the rest or others that you've been to in the past, then it's like, oh, this is what I was missing. This is what I was missing out on. Yeah. And it wasn't even until honestly recently, like when I was pregnant with Eli, that we really like settled into a church that we really love now. And not just because of the preaching and teaching and all that, but just the congregation and honestly, like, the smaller churches are more of our vibe just because it's more just like close-knit. And I understand like large churches, like we were members at a really large church locally, and they have the small groups and stuff, but it's just not the same. Like, I wish I could pinpoint exactly and like explain a little bit more eloquently like the major differences, because you still do get like that small like community feel, and maybe that works for some people, and if it does, then cool. But for us, like for Jed and I think just because we were really young when we got married, it was hard to connect with other young couples at the church, which is surprising because of how large the church was. But we were always like reaching out, seeking out that community with people. It was really hard to find after a certain point. And so when we resigned our membership there, we started going to a smaller church, which is the one we are currently attending. And it's not even like there are a ton of young families. There are definitely young families there with kids like around our age, with toddlers and stuff like that, which is really cool. But even the people who are just like way older, even like way younger, like we have found community with like all ages and stages of life in the church. And that is like huge and not something that we experienced in the past. So when I was single, or even when Jed and I were dating, I wish that I would have maybe done more like church shopping, I guess.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Like, like you do kind of have to like try out a bunch of different stuff, and I think maybe we like got a little bit complacent, or I got complacent
It's discouraging, you know?
Yeah. And then it's just hard, like, going from church to church, because you just want to, like, I just want to settle down somewhere. Like, I just need to find somewhere to go, and then you feel like you kind of get stuck in wherever you end up. And again, that's not to say the church that we used to go to was bad or anything, and there were a lot of people there that we loved dearly and still talk to from time to time. But it's definitely something I wish that I had made more of an important part of my spiritual health and journey, was to find a really, really good church. Which I'm very grateful now to the Lord that he's blessed us with the one that we are currently attending. So that's my first point. Second one is, this is the one where you're probably going to talk about a lot too, is to self-reflect on the life that God has really called you to and make steps towards that. So for example, practicing homemaking arts, researching how to properly care for and organize my home, finding a godly mentor who could help me in relational communication, especially marital communication, and being mindful of who I allowed to have influence over my life. So I feel like I was surrounded, especially like in late high school, out of high school, like early college years. I was around a lot of workaholics, spiritually stagnant people. I was honestly, like, I was friends with a lot of Christians.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really a lot of relationships that were, like, really edifying to me in the way that they should have been. And that's not to say that, you know, they were bad people or anything like that. But I definitely needed something, like, in retrospect, I definitely needed a different counsel and advice at that time in my life. And I was told a lot of things that I'm very thankful, because I was told a lot of things to do things a certain way or to go down a certain path. But in my heart, I was like, I don't know about this. I think I got to do something. And that's one of the reasons why Jed and I decided to get married so young.
Yeah.
Was kind of out of left field, I think, for a lot of people who knew me. I was very, like, career-minded and oriented out of high school. I feel like I had a fairly lucrative career in music at the time. I could have gone really far with it. I was auditioning for schools and, like, or preparing for auditioning for conservatories and stuff like that. And then the Lord just put in my heart to wait and to just teach for a while and to work and just kind of, like, continue what I was doing, to kind of stay in town, to stay living with my parents. And then I met Jed, and then I was like, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense now. Also just, like, people who were discontent and things like that, and the list goes on. But yeah, like, I wish at that time, and that's not to say the things that I was pursuing were bad in themselves, but I think I would have rather, if I could go back, like, practice, like, how to cook a really good meal.
Yeah.
And a few really good meals, and how to manage my time better as a homemaker, instead of just managing my time because I have to, because I have a schedule with students or with work and things like that. Because once you take that away and you do have lots of free time, you're still called to steward the time that you're left with, even with your kids, especially when they're little. And there isn't a whole lot of quote unquote structure in your day, because there doesn't really need to be. Like, yeah, you have your regular, like, meal times and play times and things like that. But you are the one who kind of, like, sets the parameters as far as time goes and where it's spent in your home. And I wish I would have maybe done more research on what would have been most productive at the time, and it really wasn't what I was doing compared to the life that I have now, and how I could have preparing myself for the life that I currently have, the lifestyle that we currently have. I could have done a whole lot more, as opposed to just, like, at the time it was music, like, all, like everything. My whole week was just filled to the brim with it. Which is not to say that it was like that in itself is bad, but in comparison to what I could have been doing, I could have, reprioritized for sure.
You could have had more balance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one thing that I kind of like had to fight for in conversations was like, well, why don't you just like go to school? Like, you have so much natural talent at this. Like, it's going to be wasted away on what? You're going to get married young, have kids, and then what? Like, for what? Family life? Like, that seems kind of silly. You have this like big thing going for you and whatever. And it's like, okay, but it's not about me though. It's not about how successful can I be in X, Y, and Z. It's what is the life that God has called me to. And that's something that Jen and I talked about like extensively. And like I was saying, I had to fight in conversations. Like, I know that I could be really good at this, and this is potentially something that I could really thrive in and be really successful and make a lot of money and like connections and like doing all this stuff. And I was on the road to doing that, but I just like, there's like something in the back of my mind, like, I just don't think I'm going to be doing it for very long. So why would I invest, all this time and money, accrue a ton of debt from going to school, only to know that this is really what the life that I was called to do. And yeah, that's like a really big thing that I wish I could have told myself when I was single. And then along with that, like finding a godly mentor, that is something I had been missing out on a lot. I definitely had mentors,
right?
But it was a lot of, like I was saying, prioritizing the career aspect of my life, not the spiritual or balance, work-life balance in my life that I needed. And it was hard because these are, they were people that were very, I don't even know what the word is. It's like you want to do right by them, or like you want to please them, or you feel like you owe them something, and things like that, which is bad in itself, because we shouldn't be thinking about that. We should be thinking about how can we please the Lord.
Yeah.
So that's something I was definitely missing out on, and I did, by my own fault, I completely blame myself that I did not prioritize finding like a Titus 2 woman who could kind of like lead me down the path and encourage me down the path that I was wanting to go, because there were definitely points where I felt like I was kind of like floating around by myself, not really sure what to do. And in those moments, I feel like my own mom really stepped in to help encourage me, like, no, it's okay if you do this, and this, and you want to do this, and I'm so grateful. But then you do need those people who are, even members at your church, and Jed and I felt very lost in the sea of all of the congregants and everything, and so I felt like it was really hard to make connections with people. And even though I did reach out, I could have definitely done more. In terms of spending time with people who I know would have been a really great influence in my life to help me get to the place where I needed to be, especially spiritually. I feel like I'm kind of like coming out of like a haze after many years, which is a really, really bizarre feeling.
You became conscious suddenly.
It's so strange. It's really strange. But that's what a good church will do for you. So
yeah, seriously. It sobers you up really quick.
It definitely does. Yeah. And then even like I was saying, the relational communication part of it, especially when Jed and I got married, like in retrospect, we had a lot of issues with communication, like the first 1 to 2 years of our marriage, I would say. And then things kind of like started to be on the up and up after that. And it's not to say like, oh, we're perfect now, like everything's fine and dandy, we still have but like it is night and day compared to how bad our communication was. And I thought we were doing pretty good back then, but then I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh,
so
like I was a horrible wife. I was a horrible wife. And like, that's not to say that Jed was blameless, but like I'm going to take responsibility for what I did.
Yeah.
And just all of the terrible things I contributed to the problem and stuff like that. And I mean, I could honestly say that I was a terrible wife in a lot of instances. I'm just like, sometimes like Jen and I will be talking. I'm like, remember when we used to do this? And it's just like, oh,
it hurts a little.
But at the time you think you're so right. And like doing the thing you're supposed to do. And like, it's just funny being young and married. Yeah, we're just a bunch of idiots. Like, trying to like get your way, and you really think that that's not what's going on. Like, no, I'm such a humble person. They're the stubborn ones, and then you look back and you're like, oh wow, that was bad. That was really, 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 really bad. Like, I was so wrong for doing that. Anyway, I'm glad that we're still married, and we
Praise
have
God.
beautiful children now, which helps a lot, honestly, if you commit your children and parenthood to the Lord. It honestly like helps your marriage a lot too, I will say. So yeah, and then I was supposed to come up with the third point, but
it's fine. You know what?
I said a lot.
You know what? If something comes up while I'm talking, it's okay.
I'm sure
you can interrupt me and say,
okay.
I have a third one. That's totally fine.
Will do.
So I think my list is a little bit more exhaustive just because I was single for a lot longer.
That's true. I didn't have very much time to
Well,
make mistakes being single.
So from the time you graduated high school to the time you got married, how many years is that for you?
Please hold. 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mine is double. Mine is 6. So just to give you guys a little bit of perspective. So Marcella never left the home. You were under my father's covering for...
Which I'm very grateful for.
Yes. And honestly, one of the things that I wish that I had done is stayed under my father's covering. And again, like, I'm not going to say I don't have regrets. The whole no regrets thing is stupid. Like, that's not...
Oh, no. I regret so many things.
That's not even, like, Christian.
No.
Like, we're not supposed to look back on our life and say, no regrets. You know what I mean? We should look back on our life and see how God has had his mercy on us,
falling to our knees and thanking the Lord.
Yes. And so one of my regrets is leaving my father's covering. And my father is not a perfect man, but he's still like, there's so much goodness in staying under your a Christian father's covering. You know what I mean? So that's just a little side note. That's one thing that I wish that I had done, because I left my father's covering when I was 17. I was newly 17 and I graduated high school, and I had a plan. I moved to LA. I was a part of a ministry school. At the time, my family was in Pentecostalism, and I went to a Pentecostal ministry school in downtown LA. And I lived there for almost 3 years, not quite 3 years, but almost 3 years. I was thrusted into a leadership role while I was there very quickly. And so my spiritual journey, honestly, like it's so shameful and chaotic and crazy. And it wasn't until I was back under my father's covering when I was about to be 20, that the Lord graciously saved me and regenerated me and woke me up to the wretched, sinful person that I am. And so it's so interesting how, like, leaving the home, like, it actually
was
like
so impactful.
It was very impactful to me. And obviously there were good times and good days, and the Lord, I see the Lord's hand. And again, I don't think I can say I have no regrets, because I do have a lot of regrets. But I see the Lord's, sovereign hand, and there are skills and friendships and just that was a good time in my life in a lot of ways, and also a very bad time in my life where I had no accountability. And I really wish I had stayed with my family in my younger adult life. And so it wasn't until I did move back to my family's home, back under the covering of my father and his rules, which were very difficult for me as a young woman who had kind of found her independence, and I was so used to having my own way and nobody, not having to answer to really anybody. And so it was really difficult for me. But, you know, the Lord was gracious in that too, as the Lord sanctified me in my early salvation. He also, you know, restored the relationship with my parents, you know, and there was so much goodness. You know, I was able to rebuild my life. I was able to, you know, get some good jobs and, you know, find a good church, you know, where I eventually met my husband. You know, there's a lot of really good things that the Lord has given me when I look back on my singlehood. But these are the things that I wish I would have done differently. So the first thing is I wish I could tell myself, young Gabby, if you're listening, every second of the day doesn't need to be filled with work or activities. Because I think I had 6 years of bad habits to accrue, this is one of the things that I'm still working on. And so Gabby now and the past needs to listen to myself. That my day does not have to be filled to the brim with productivity. And I think a part of that is my personality. You know, it's just kind of, some people are just more like they don't want to think, and that's also bad. Like, I don't want to have any downtime. I'm a fairly anxious person, so I don't want to have any silence where I have to think about all the things I'm anxious about.
Become
exactly. And so, but I think if I had learned these good habits, you know, earlier in my own adult life, then I wouldn't be struggling so much now with them. So, and that includes saying no. And that's really hard. And we could have a whole episode about saying no and boundaries and all that stuff, which I thought we had, but I guess we haven't done
I'm sure it's been like,
I think it's
thrown in there
every once in a while.
Yeah.
But boundaries are good. And of course, like, we shouldn't cut people off in an unbiblical way, but having good boundaries with relationships and even work relationships. And I'm a people pleaser. And so I would say yes to anything. I was working when I was living in Los Angeles. I was working 60-hour weeks. And even on my day off, it was occupied with planning for my work week. It was very exhausting and terrible. And when I moved back home, that habit kept going. I had at one point 4 jobs, and they were all part-time jobs, but collectively I was working from the time I opened my eyes till I went to sleep. And I barely ate anything healthy. I don't even remember, like, you know, it's so weird. I was thinking the other day, like, when did I eat? I ate so much like junk and like food on the go and like ramen and just like anything that was fast and easy and like just so that I could get through the day. You know, I lived on like McDonald's breakfasts and like Starbucks lunches, and it was very unhealthy for me. And not even just like for my body, but just like mentally, you know, it's so taxing to be filling your day to the brim. And I know you girls are out there, the workaholics, the ones that think that they have to be working to feel some sort of like whole, like it's really hard to explain, but it's not going to fulfill anything. Like, I could have met my basic needs with probably 2 jobs. And, you know, 2 jobs to kind of make part-time money. You know what I mean? And instead of that, I was, you know, grinding. And I had bought into a lot of feminist ideals, even
hustle culture.
Yeah, even though at the time I probably wouldn't have self-identified as a feminist. I look back now and I think that I practically lived like one. I lived like one because I not only had the independent, like, I don't need no man type of like thing, also like the hustle culture, like you were saying. I was surrounded by women that wanted to work more and wanted and encouraged me in that. And instead of women that were calling me to, you know, the better thing. You know, it's not working in of itself is not bad, but the fact that I was putting all of my value and idolizing it, and almost, you know what, it's hard to talk about because the more I worked, the more people praised me, the more people, I got so much approval from man, you know, as a whole, like family, friends, like the people that I worked for, like they were like, you're so dependable, you're so reliable, and it would motivate me to work even more. You know what I mean? And so it was like, wow, you're doing this and you're going to school online. Wow, you're just like superwoman. And it really made me feel like
it puffs you up.
It fed the pride that was already
1000%.
You know? And
I can totally, same thing with me too. Like with all like the music stuff that I was talking about before, that was a huge thing. And even like a lot of the like women who were really huge like influences in my life at the time, it's like, okay, maybe they wouldn't necessarily like self-identify like you were saying as like feminist. You don't realize how much feminism infiltrates in our lives in that way. And it's not even necessarily like, it doesn't have to be like outright like the really crazy like feminist idea, but that's like, that's the seed, that's where it starts.
No,
so
and
it's crazy.
And it grew, like the seed that grew in me. And honestly, like it wasn't until I started dating Ryan that I was really faced with the reality of the habits that I had created. Because by the time we were dating, again, I had 4 jobs at the time, and they were all good things. Like I was working at a crisis pregnancy center. I was teaching piano like I am now. I was working at a foster care agency. I was working at preschool. Like I was doing all these good things, right?
Working
like,
with the kids.
Working with the kids. Like everybody looks at that and they're just like, oh, you're so selfless. You know what I mean? But really it's just to feed my big ego.
Yeah.
It's all for what? And you know what? I could pay for things, and you know, I could treat my friends to lunch, and you know, that was fun. You know, like that's cool.
You could bless other people.
Yeah, I was able to, dude, you remember when I was traveling literally like every other month? I was literally, I could hop on a plane and do whatever I wanted. But you know what? All of that was like so silly. Now that I think about it, like I always like tell people that are, you know, a lot younger than me, that are in their early 20s, I say like, I lost my 20s. I lost it. I literally lost so much of my young adulthood because I slaved and worked so hard for what? You know, like, I'm sure, like, you know, there was a lot of blessings, and I'm sure I was able to bless families in those circumstances with the different jobs I had. But I wouldn't, if I could do it over again, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. I probably would just do 1 or 2 of those things.
Yeah.
And been content with that, you know, like pay for my gym membership, pay for my car payment, you know, pay for my basic needs. And like we were in a place where we were living, like my dad didn't charge us rent, you know, we had rules that we had to live by, but like
I feel like cost of living in general was
relatively
I
could have done it, you know, I could have done it, but to feed my, and you know what, it's now I think about it, it's so cringy like to think about it. I was super proud that I was able to pay for for our wedding. I paid for our whole wedding. Like the few family members chipped in with like certain things that were like good, like big costs, but for the most part I paid for our wedding, and I was so proud of that. And now I cringe thinking about that, like, ew, I could have like done so much more with that, and like I didn't need that, you know what I mean? I was so proud of myself. Like the little feminist in me was like, I paid for our wedding and Ryan did it, you know? It's like weird. I don't want to think about it. Just talking about it makes me like, ooh, it hurts a little bit, you know? And so anyway, all of that to say, if I could do it all over again, and if you're in this season in your life where you have, you know, you have time in your day, and what are you going to fill it with? Well, I would say some of it should be applied to work. I don't think that young women should be lazy, you know, and I don't think that a young woman shouldn't be working outside of the home. Like, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying if you are to the point where you are spending more hours of your week working than anything else, then there is an imbalance, you know? I think that you should be able to meet your basic needs and fulfill your responsibilities as a young woman, but also I think that there's so much more goodness to be had. And that brings me to my next point. I wish, like you had said, I wish I had prioritized learning how to be a wife, learning how to be a homemaker. And I think, you and I were blessed because when we were homeschooled, my mother did prioritize teaching us a lot of good practical things.
Yes.
We weren't useless, we were able to do.
No, we were very self-sufficient.
Yeah, we were able to take care of ourselves. But
Yeah.
as far as the goodness of homemaking, that's not something that I had ever considered or thought about doing. And now, as I'm learning as a young wife, I've been married for almost 4 years, and you just went to 5 years. I feel like I'm finally getting into a good rhythm after a few years of
trial and error.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of that could have been worked out, like as far as organizing, having like the cleaning regimen, caring about the things that we're making and cooking, and those sort of things I did not think at all about. Never. I barely thought about it when I was single. Nothing. I never thought about it. I probably I cleaned my room, I cleaned my bathroom, and I fed myself somehow. I still don't know how. But I didn't care about it. I didn't care about it, and now I care so deeply about it. And it's just like, I wish I would have applied myself when I was younger to care about those things. I wish I learned how to cook a variety of different meals. I wish I learned how to organize my day and to have a sustainable cleaning schedule. And I know a lot of that you can't really prepare for because you don't know what kind of man you're going to marry, because every man is different.
Yeah.
And you don't know what your lifestyle is going to look like or what kind of money you're going to be able to have to use. But there's still some practical things that I feel like I definitely could have applied myself to learning as a young woman, and I didn't care about it at all. And this is something that I, Lord willing, if I ever have daughters, I want to train them to be homemakers, and like, it's not that is the only option for them. Like, I want to raise potential wives and husbands and godly men and women, but I think that it would be good to instill in them a love for the homemaking arts. Because I wish that's something that I had prioritized as a young woman.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the second part of things I wish I would have done is, like you said, spent time with an older and wiser Christian woman. So it's interesting because when I was single, again, I was so quickly pushed into a leadership position when I was living in Los Angeles that I had absolutely no accountability. There was nobody overseeing my spiritual health, and I was literally living the most reprobate lifestyle you could possibly live. Like, for somebody that lived in a sheltered homeschool Christian environment, like, I completely went crazy when I was at a Christian school, like, and I was being trained to be a worship leader, and I was a worship leader. I was like in these leadership positions where I had women that were under me, and I was leading them and I was mentoring them, and I should never have been doing that. And I was the one that needed somebody to do that for. So I know some of it was like circumstantial, the kind of churches that I was going to and the school that I was a part of, that just wasn't emphasized, like accountability and discipleship. But it's interesting too, because when I moved back home and I was, what I believed to be, like the Lord, opening my eyes to seeing my sin and really trying to live a Christian life, and being serious about it. The church that I was going to, when I was kind of healing and kind of just really like giving my life to the Lord for the first time, there still wasn't discipleship.
Yeah.
And that was really hard. I also was quickly pushed into a leadership position at that church because I'm a musician, and because, of the kind of personalities we have. It was just like, oh, well, I became a member so that I could be a leader. It's just insane to think about that. Because in order to be in leadership positions, you had to be a member.
Yeah.
And so it kind of went out of order. It was really strange. And so, even at the church, the better church where I was, saved and kind of deprogramming and, I was doing a lot better spiritually. Even then, I still didn't even know that that's what I needed. I didn't know that I needed an older Christian woman to help me and guide me. And even just for practical things, this doesn't even have to be that serious. Like, just good financial advice. Should I be working this many jobs? Should I be doing this? What kind of people should I be hanging out with? That sort of stuff is so invaluable. And like, I pray that when I'm the older woman, Lord willing, that the Lord would, give me the ability to be that kind of person for younger Christian women. I pray that I can do that, because that's something that I really needed. And when Ryan and I first started dating, I remembered that there was this woman that I really connected with when I was in high school, and I reached out to her, and she didn't even go to my church. And I was just like, hey, like, I think we kind of have the same beliefs about certain things, and I feel comfortable talking to you. Can we please like meet up? And that kind of started my first Titus 2 kind of relationship. And I wish that I had started that relationship a lot sooner, because, man, I could have benefited so much from her wisdom. But she actually has been on our podcast before. Her name is Marissa Mace, and she has a blog called The Encouraged Crumb. And we have an episode titled The Encouraged Crumb that you can look for. I believe it's in season 2.
It's so good. You have to listen to it.
Yeah, just such a godly woman. And she poured so much into my life, and she could be there, drop of a hat for me, and she was able to answer my phone calls and answer my stupid questions and just be the Titus 2 woman for me. And I was so thankful for that, and I still am. I still benefit so much from that relationship in such a different way than I did when like a few years ago, but yeah, I wish I had sought that relationship out a lot sooner, because she had been on my mind for a while, and I was kind of like, oh, that's so awkward, like asking somebody to be my
randomly,
but I don't know, like it was the Lord knew the perfect time to bring us together, and I still gleaned so much from that relationship. But anyway, I also wish that I had good friends, good Christian friends that were I feel like, okay, it's hard to say, because I don't want to say that I didn't have good friends. I had great friends. I just wish that I also had friends that were older and spiritually more mature and were able to, I don't know. I just wish that I was around other women that wanted what I wanted. And so I feel like it's interesting, because now, like, the circles that we're in, like, we're around other Christian families with children and women that want to be homemakers, and that blesses me so much. But I wish when I was single that I knew that there were other women that wanted that, because of the kind of lifestyle that I was living, of working so hard for what? I don't know. Like, it was so different, the kind of relationships that I had. We were all kind of going for this like thing that I don't even know what it was for, There was no talk of, what is this glorifying to God? Is this what God wants? Like, there was no talks like that. And I wish, and if you're single and you're listening to this, like, they're out there. Trust me, I know they are. Like, there are women that want what you want, and it's hard. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. It doesn't mean you should drop your friends. Like, I'm still friends with most of the people I was friends with like 5 years ago, but it's just, I wish that I had surrounded myself with more people that wanted to glorify God in the same way, And then also, I think that, of course, like, our family was so good to us. We were so blessed. Like, our parents are still married. Our grandparents are still married. They're all Christians. We're so blessed by that. And they gave us so much good advice and helped us so much when we were single. But having people, like Marcella said, in your church that are caring about you and your needs, especially in those vulnerable years where you're single and you're kind of like floating and you're like, what is my purpose? Am I waiting around for a husband, or what should I be doing right now? Having that kind of guidance is so golden. It's so golden, because those people are generally not going to be biased, because even if your family says they're not biased, they totally are, which they should be, like, they're your family. Like, like they love you and they always think they know what's best for you, you know? But it's just, you need that and Titus 2 relationships.
Yeah.
You need both. You should have, of course, if you have the support of your family, that is amazing. And that's something that God blessed Marcella and I with. But you should also pursue those good Christian, hearty relationships where it's iron sharpening iron, where you're pushing each other and you're pushing each other to glorify God, and that being the first and foremost thing. And I think there's one more thing I wanted to say, but I totally forgot it now. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna search my brain. My brain is fried now, and it's so hot in here. I'm like,
it's so
sweating. It is almost the dead of summer, and I'm like feeling we're on the cusp of it, and I'm wearing dark black jeans that are just killing me. Anyway,
hopefully these aren't too short.
I don't remember what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something about working, but I don't even know.
Well,
anyway.
if I can make a couple comments,
yes,
I had
okay,
a couple
go.
things come to mind with the whole with the friendship thing, prioritizing the friendships and like trying to seek out those people, like you were saying, they are out there. It's not to say they didn't have good friends, but it's like you needed a different type of friend at the time. And if you are seeking that and you're not sure, it might be people online. Like
that's very, very possible.
Be like somebody that you connect with. Like if you're like, there's nobody in my church or like nobody in my social circles, work or school or whatever it may be, that I really connect with in that sense, like don't write off online friendships, because those can really flourish a lot more than maybe you think. So don't write those off. And then also with the whole, like why it's so important to find those people, especially when you are single. You don't want to be waiting until like, okay, I gotta wait until I'm, married or have kids and I'm really in the trenches and then I'll need those people. Like you need them now. You need them now before you get to the really nitty gritty of family life and home life and stuff like that. And I think we tend to maybe think to ourselves, I think I can do this on my, like, I think I can do this on my own. Like, I'm prioritizing my own spiritual health, all my spiritual habits and practices. I'm reading my word. I'm going to church. I'm praying on a regular basis. I'm studying the Bible and I'm doing the things that I need to do. But it's like, and that's not to say that, the word alone is enough for us. Like, the Lord alone is enough. But on the other end, don't think that alone is gonna, like, really help you thrive. Like those kind of friendships are for sure going to propel you towards the lifestyle and habits and things like that need to be taking place in your life at the time. So don't become complacent. I feel like I was in that place, like I was saying earlier. Don't become complacent and, well, I think me and God are good. So I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing and working and like going to church and doing all this stuff, but then never really seeking out really deep, like edifying spiritual relationships and friendships with other women. Can potentially be a really big issue, and it'll help you so much when things do come up. Like I was saying, like you want those relationships to already be an anchor in your life. You don't want them to be kind of like the life, raft that you're like, I need help. Like all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm panicking. Who do I go to? And then and then you're like, you're not vibing with this person. Then you gotta like go seek out some, which I feel like is something that like Jed and I really struggled with. And that could have been a lot of like part of the demise of our, the first couple of years of our relationship, and the issues that we had was because we didn't have those types of people in our life. So that's a huge part of this. And also, out of everything that we said, take note that we said absolutely nothing about dating.
Nothing.
Nope. And that's not to say that that's not part of the equation, because it totally is.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
But And it shouldn't be like, I'm not going to be thinking about dating at all. Like you can't.
No, you need to.
You can't like approach the subject in that way when you're single.
Yeah.
But there are so many things that you could be doing. so many things
Yeah.
we could have been doing or prioritizing and rethinking that had nothing to do with boys.
Yeah.
So, and those things will pour over and help your relationship once you do date and get engaged and get married. All of those habits and like little things that you have been working on and cultivating in your own life will serve you so well when you do get to that point. And then you won't be like floundering.
Totally.
You know, when you're in the middle of trying to figure out communication with a guy.
Yeah.
Because that's really, like, the relationship itself is so hard to begin with. And then everything else surrounding it, you want to be kind of set in your life already. That's going to help you so much to kind of like anchor in, your marriage and things like
I remember
that.
what I was going to say, and that it really goes well with what you just said. Something that I'm thankful that I did that I don't regret at all is I did not abandon my homies that got married and that had little ones when I was single. And you know what? Out of almost everybody in my life, I was the last one to get married. And I'm still the last one to have a child. I don't have a child. And you know what? Like, those relationships with the people that were married before I was and were in serious relationships where I was single while my homies were married. You know, I wasn't even dating. I wasn't even dating Ryan when all my friends got married. And when Marcella and Jed got married,
you guys
Ryan
and I for a couple months?
Barely a couple months. He was my date, and it was even kind of awkward because like we were like still getting to know each other, you know? And so I'm so thankful that I kept those relationships. And you know what I thought when my girlfriends were dating and getting married, I was like, great, I have another friend, you know, the husband is now a bonus. You know what I mean? This is not like, I'm not losing my friend.
Her away from me.
And you know what? I'm thankful. And I don't know, nobody told me that. God just blessed me, thankfully, with that mindset, because I really cared so much about my friends that I cared about who they loved and then their children as well. And so I'm thankful because that, you know what, that caused me to have an even deeper love for God and family life. And it even still benefits me. You know what I mean? Like, as somebody that doesn't have children yet, and I'm still in this, I don't want to call it a limbo, because this is still a good time, you know, that the Lord is using in my life. But it is kind of like I am in a waiting period because I do desire children and I want that. But I'm also like still trying to, you know, be fruitful, you know, so it's kind of like a weird conflicting situation. But either way, I still benefit from that. You know, I'm not going to not hang out with my friends that have little kids because I don't get them and I don't relate. You know, the fact that I didn't relate to my friends that were in serious relationships when I was single actually benefited me because I was able to see how relationships worked, how their marriages worked
from an outside
perspective, and also kind of see, you know, like, I think that was glorifying to God what they did, and I don't know if I would do that. You know what I mean? Those sort of things really helped me. And so if you are single and, you know, you see, oh, well, my friends are getting married and they're all in serious relationships, I don't even have a boyfriend. You know, this is not a useless time in your life. This is such a gift. Singleness is a gift, you know? And so we should use that to be fruitful, to glorify God, to serve our churches. Like, a single woman in the church is gold.
Yes.
Like, the ways that you can serve the church are different than the married and women with young children.
1,000. There are so many things that you can do that I cannot.
Yeah, and even now, like, I know that there are things that even I can do because I don't have children. You know what I mean? Yeah. The ways that I can serve the body of Christ is different. It's so different.
Which is what I wish that I had been that single woman at the time, and I wasn't, and that is something I regret for sure. Yeah. And then it's like, man, I could have used
totally
the time and talent and gifts and the things that I had to offer to people, and I didn't care. Like, I wasn't thinking about that, and I wish somebody had told me to think about that.
No, it's very special. It's a very special
1,000%
time in your life, and don't neglect, you know, the relationships with young married women and young women with children, that's going to bless you so much. I know it blessed me, and it still blesses me, and I'm still reaping the benefits of it because of that. So anyway, cool. Do you have anything else to add before we...
No.
I could talk about this for literally hours, literally.
Yeah.
It's good to reflect. You know what? If you're listening and you're in the boats that Marcella and I are, maybe do a self-reflection tonight. Think about what would you tell, a sister in Christ that's in this season in their lives and
who's wondering what to do.
Yeah, and maybe pray that God would bring those women to you, because we, we're not in that season in our lives anymore, and we can be those older women to those women, you know. So anyway, I'm pooped. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to tell you what you should buy instead of a multi-level marketing company. Ay. Marcella, guess what? What? Last night, I made our dinner entirely out of incredible food that could have been thrown out as waste and headed to the landfill.
No way. How?
Imperfect Foods.
Imperfect Foods is a weekly grocery delivery service on a mission to build a better, less wasteful food system. They offer a full lineup of sustainable, affordable groceries that make the weekly chore of grocery shopping an effortless and delightful experience.
Imperfect Foods partners with food suppliers, farmers, and small businesses to ensure that delicious food goes into our pantries and instead of the landfill.
I feel like you started that sentence really weird.
I did.
Anyway, you guys have got to try it. Get $20 off your first Imperfect Foods delivery by using our link at youngandwifedup.com.
Get it. Okay, guys, I'm really excited about this new segment. It might be a little controversial.
I didn't even know this was going to be a thing.
I told you before that I wanted to do this.
I must have been unconscious.
And you were like, yeah, that sounds fun. You literally replied to me.
I was not there.
I think it was when Eli was like not sleeping. So it's probably why. Either way, our new segment at the end of our episodes is to literally call out by name a multi-level marketing company. And if you haven't, listen to season 1. The season 1 finale, The Truth About MLMs. It's very controversial. And
it's only controversial to people who are into MLMs.
That's true.
For the rest
but
of
you know what? I was pleasantly surprised by the women that texted us or like DM'd us on Instagram that was like, hey, I'm in an MLM. And we thought you guys were very respectful. And you guys were right. I was like, oh, cool. So leave. I'm just kidding.
So why are you still doing it?
Yeah. You know what?
Anyway.
Girl, if you gotta hustle, I appreciate the hustle, you know what I mean? But there's many reasons. So go listen to that episode.
If you're not
why
sure what
we're
the
not down with that. And, we're not woman haters. We're big corporations that make you think that you have your own business haters. You know what I mean? Anyway, so... What we're going to do is we're going to tell you each week an MLM company that we think that you should not buy.
Finish. Sorry, finish.
And then instead we'll give you a recommendation.
I didn't even misread. I just did not read the first portion that says instead of Monet. I just came up with is it Monet?
Yeah, Monet.
That's why I did the other episode that we're supposed to be recording tonight as well.
Yeah.
I did that one.
Yeah, you did.
I have not thought of anything.
Okay, I'll tell you my reco first and then you can do yours. So
oh my gosh.
Instead of Monet, which, okay, listen, before you guys call me a hater, I used Monet for like literally 2 years and I loved it. Okay, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with Monet. I just think that we shouldn't buy things from multi-level marketing companies because I think they're unethical. But if Monet would stop doing those unethical things and they just, if they just were like in Ulta, I would totally buy it. Some people have horror stories like they lost their hair and they were bald because of Monet. That was not my experience. I was supporting a girlfriend. And I do not regret that, I had a pure heart when I did it.
Not me looking at the products, see what they have.
And I loved Monet, but I think that the way that they sell is unethical. So anyway, so because of that, and again, please listen to the episode, okay? Instead of that, because Monet, okay, so what, if you don't know what Monet is.
Is it Monet, or is it Monat, or is it what are the
Monet? It's Monet.
What are the options?
It's a modern nature. Monet. Modern
I've heard
nature.
people call it Monat.
Well, they were literally wrong because it's modern nature. Either way, okay, that's not even the point. Okay, the point of this is that you shouldn't buy from them. Instead, if you want clean, okay, so they claim to have, which I don't think they're wrong in their claims. They have clean beauty products. They started doing hair stuff, and I loved their shampoo. I still have some of their like curl cream, and it's probably expired. Let's be honest. It's been like 5 years since I bought it. But it was amazing. Like, they had these amazing products, and they had clean ingredients, and they're supposed to just completely transform your hair. And I also, okay, I'm just going to say that I have very generous hair that it takes a lot to do for it to be like destroyed. So in my defense, even if you've had a horror story with Monet, like, my hair was like, ooh, girl, yeah, that works, you know? So instead, my recommendation, so that you're not buying from an MLM company, if you want some clean hair products, I recommend 2 different companies. The first one is High Bar, and they are shampoo bars. We've talked about them before on the podcast before. And I get mine from Earth Hero, but you can buy them just straight on the High Bar website. And I've seen them in Target. I don't know if they are currently doing, but I've seen them in Target. They even have a sample line where you can kind of like get a sample of shampoos and then, you know, see which one you like the best. But that one is a clean beauty hair product. And also they have really sustainable packaging, the best packaging. It's just like a piece of paper, literally, and cardboard.
The most sustainable.
And they last forever, literally months. So anyway, I love High Bar. And then if you're not into a shampoo bar, my other recommendation is Seed Phytonutrients. And I also get mine on Earth Hero. I know I get a lot of stuff at Earth Hero. Okay, what am I gonna say? I'm not gonna lie and say I don't get it from Earth Hero. I promise this isn't just a walking ad. Either way, I love it, and my husband loves it, and it's a bottle, and inside each bottle there is a seed pack. So when you're finished with your shampoo, you can plant some seeds, and it's clean beauty, and it's very good products. They all are 0 on the Think Dirty app. So if you care about those things like I do, then...
Why is Boppy calling me?
I don't know, but you got to tell us what your recommendation is for a clean hair product or something.
Oh, well, awkward, because both of my suggestions are not clean beauty products. They're not clean booty products. Does it have to be
The heat is really hurting our brains.
Does it have to be clean beauty?
That's literally what Monet is. It doesn't have to be hair. You can do like, what do they have face masks. They literally sell supplements now. It's wild.
What?
It is wild. I'm so sorry if you love Monet. I'm not saying I don't. I really liked it.
I don't know what to say.
I just don't want this segment to be like a huge bummer, like to somebody that listens. I'm just saying that please listen to the episode, and then also don't buy from these companies.
Okay. The thing is, with my hair, I can vouch for the High Bar products. They are really amazing. Good. So if anything, if you're going to take away anything from this tidbit, is to get the High Bar products or to try them out.
Yes.
If you're looking for an alternative. But I have been not lucky.
Oh, no.
In the hair product category when it comes to clean beauty. My hair is very, very picky.
Yeah, it's temperamental.
Very picky. Now, I have talked about Acure before, ACURE. They are technically clean beauty. Their packaging is, I wouldn't call it sustainable. It's plastic, but they do have the
Terra recycling.
Yeah. Which is cool if you want to do that.
Totally.
And they have a lot of really good shampoos. I'm not a huge fan of their conditioners, but a lot of their shampoos are really good. I have very fine, oily oily hair. Like, really oily hair. Like,
it gets oily after like 3 hours.
Yeah. I'm not
insane.
kidding. It's really bad. I don't know. I've tried. You know what? Don't come at me with you got to do the no puma. I've done it before and it doesn't work. I don't know how people can train their hair. It just doesn't. It's not in my genes. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm sorry, Marcella.
Anyway, but if you're like, I just need like a really good hair mask or something. I saw they had like a really good hair mask.
Yes, they do, yeah.
This is not clean beauty, but I love it so much that I just can't
let it go.
I can't find a really good alternative. I've been like hard pressed to find a really good one, but it's the Eva NYC Therapy Session Hair Mask. And it comes in a huge tub, and Jed loves it too. It's so funny. It comes in like a massive tub, and it's under $20.
Wow.
And it works so well. There is fragrance in it, so if you are sensitive to fragrance, then I would definitely not suggest. But it
Marcella,
smells.
you're gonna kill us.
I know.
It's okay. We all got something. I have my Kat Von D eyeliner.
But if anything, if there's any beauty products that I am like, you know what, if it's not clean beauty, I'm like not freaking out. It's the hair stuff, because I can just wash it off.
Yeah, that is
I'm
true.
not necessarily letting it soak into my scalp, sort of thing. Like, yes, you're inhaling the fragrance. I know. You don't have to tell me. But
the mob is coming.
I know. The crunchy mob is gonna come for me. I'm sorry. I'm not crunchy. I'm scrunchy. I'm somewhat crunchy. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. But that's a really good hair mask. So if you're in the market for one, and for some reason, it even works well for my very fine, oily hair.
Wow.
It's not too heavy, but it just like, my ends are very dry. So it's just like the perfect formula for what I need.
It's okay, Marcella. I won't judge you. Thank you for getting that off your chest.
That was intense.
Okay, guys. So don't buy Monet. Buy
High Bar,
Acura phytonutrients.
Seed phytonutrients.
And that's all.
Even NYC.
Bye, guys.
Bye.